Hello there folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss on different topics like spirituality, introspection, deep interpretation, game interpretation, dream interpretation, and I just prefer giving a different approach towards certain topics, certain ideas, and well, one of my purposes in life is to show people that there can always be another interpretation to things. If you're interested in some constructive feedback on video games that you may be creating, feel free to share me a link. Well, other than that, let's dive into today's video. I will discuss a bit about the past, and I've been having a question as of late that's been, well, I can't say bugging me, but the question was very simple: can we actually change the past? Now, there have been a lot of videos on time traveling, and there are movies on how you can build a device and travel in time and fix probably some mistakes. But then there are some other folks who say that, hey, if you fix something in the past, you will probably not be able to turn back into the present. Now, this is actually possible in a way, but impossible in another way. Okay, now time is something that will always stay fixed. Okay, and if you can see something like the deeper aspect of things and how they usually tend to go, you will see that you will have certain dreams, certain premonitions, depending on how aware you are, and those things will tell you that something will happen. Okay, even some spiritual theories say that in your life you have certain lessons to learn, but it's up to you whether you learn them or not. However, the universe will make sure that one way or another you will learn them. Okay, this is like one of those. Life can be compared in a way to a visual novel, that's not linear. Okay, it's not one that's straightforward. I think the other genre was called kinetic visual novels, the ones that you have multiple choices, and based on what you pick, you anyways get to the end. Okay, and there are certain things that will happen irrespective of irregarding of your choices. So the point about the past is the past will always remain fixed. If you would go back into the past and change something into it, it's gonna be nothing else than a scarf or something like that that has a lot of threads of silk or material, right? If you change the order of some, right, in a certain small spot, the other ones will remain the same. Certain events will probably rearrange themselves there in the past, and they might have some subconscious reverberation towards. But even if you do change the past, which theoretically could be possible in our imagination only, the point is, if you would change the past, you won't simply change the collective karma that those events actually generated, and your karma as well. Okay, so looking back into the past and different means as to how to change the past, that's kind of irrelevant. Okay, now there is another aspect, okay, that of so-called time travelers. Okay, now what is actually a time traveler? Now, time traveling is impossible. Okay, take it whatever way you want it or you don't want it. Time traveling is impossible because most people don't even know what time is, or whether time exists or not. Okay, this is something that most people will simply say, well, time exists, but time exists only because there have been like millions of generations before you that have supported this concept. So technically you have it so ingrained into your let's say temporal karma, into your temporal memory, that when you are born with it, you quickly activate this memory of time because your parents and everything around you still revolves in this society around time. Okay, especially corporatism. And well, you see, the point about this is you don't actually need a watch, you don't actually need time. All you need is to get in touch with your body quite a lot, quite deeply, and you will see that when you get in touch with your body, getting in touch with your body is one aspect of introspection, so to speak. If you get in touch with your body, but it may take several weeks, several months, you will see that if you get in touch with your circadian rhythm, you won't even need to wear a watch. You'll simply know that at that moment it's 3 o'clock, or at a certain moment it is another time. Okay, you will not probably know each and every minute, but there are many cycles during the day that go on, and based on those cycles, if you are sensitive to them, you will specifically know what hour it is. You will know if it is 3:30 in the morning, because there's something that happens usually around then. You will know if it is 6 in the morning, or several other days that have several other hours that have some greater meaning to the body at a more subconscious level, because most likely people won't be taught to become somewhat more conscious of those aspects. So the point about time travelers is they are somewhat different. Okay, there are very powerful entities, yes, that can simply come back into this present time, let's say, and certain yogis can actually achieve this aspect. It's something like when you live, okay, you can shape your energy into a way, and you can create, let's say, a copy, a replica of your body, okay, that you preserve at a certain age, okay, and that exists, that body exists as an energy body. It is invisible to others, yes, but that can be, let's say in the English words, that can be used as an anchor. Okay, now that anchor, what happens is it will keep a fresh memory of that body. Take it like some kind of a checkpoint in a video game, and let's say you will keep shaping that body, because this technology of the inner self is not something that you will be deploying in several moments. It takes a long time most likely, and as you develop that, okay, this can be, let's say, transformed into a fully fledged, let's say, human being. Okay, it's more than a thought form, it's a fully fledged being. I think they are called devas or lingas in Eastern societies, in India, I think. I'm not too knowledgeable of their terms. Okay, they are very deep into these sciences, and I'm just well, not initiated by them, but I just happened to get to know a few terms. So once such a body is created, the person can actually live their life, and they will perish naturally. But having that anchor, okay, their higher self can come back into this world. Okay, they can simply come back into this world with that specific body. They don't need to get born again. Okay, they will probably spawn or materialize, because in order to materialize you need to create a lot of karma in a way. And don't take karma as sin, because most people believe that karma equals sin. No, it doesn't have the slightest link towards sin. Okay, it's not sin. Karma equals memory. Imagine that in order to get born, you need to do some quests. These quests will give you some items, and let's say that those items, you will have to mix them together to obtain the, let's say, recipe required for your body. Once you have that recipe, you will need to find a suitable womb based on very similar DNA, the most similar possible DNA, and then you will introduce that let's say recipe of yours. And well, what goes on is beyond the mind, because it belongs to the let's say to the intelligence of the universe, and the intelligence of the universe is a force that simply cannot be described by the mind. The way I minimalistically present it is, it's the code that allows this world to exist. It's basically that which handles literally each and every project, each and every process in this world, like how flowers bloom, how things die, how things are born, how things develop, how cells multiply, and all the hundreds of processes that go even within those cells, right? As the cells divide, there are numerous processes that go on, just like mini threads in a greater aspect. Okay, so these beings might actually come, and their purpose is to simply give some piece of advice. Now, these beings don't need to die necessarily. They can use such a body and they can materialize it through, let's say, greater capacities. Most likely they come from higher dimensions, so they may have better power in what this dimension is concerned. So the point is, when they come, they have a certain message to deliver, and most likely no one will ever hear about them again. Okay, so time travelers can also be referred, you can also refer to time travelers as those very few people who since childhood they know certain specific things about a person, right? They remember what most people call as past lives, but it's not necessarily a past life. It can also be a parallel life, because every person can have even several hundred parallel existences. That's why when you go to sleep you see a lot of things. Okay, any other worlds that you live in don't have to follow, and most likely won't follow, the same logic as this one where we are. The other worlds may look similar to this. Yes, we might live in different, let's say, time frames, like medieval age, or some kind of future, or some kind of dystopia, whatever. So the point of experiencing in the name of so-called consciousness is to simply manifest yourself in any possible realm, so that you experience and also learn. Let's not forget. So the point is, all these being said, if you can't simply travel in the past, okay, more skeptical people will simply keep on going. They will keep on looking. Sure, it's not my problem. Everyone is here to try understand certain things. If they succeed, well, my congratulations. But based on the point that there is no such thing as time, and well, in a way time kind of influences space instead of space influencing time. The point about this is, I don't want to get too much into detail. Some of these are still fuzzy, so I'm not that all-wise guru. I just have seen a lot of sources, and my introspection also returned a lot of answers to me. So I'm not afraid of saying, well, I don't know. In fact, I think you'll actually hear more I don't knows from me than the number of topics that I may take into account in a certain video. So can you actually fix the past? Well, there is actually one way. Okay, so the question would be, how can you actually fix the past if you cannot travel into the past, right? But who said you actually need to travel to the past? Okay, now one proof, for example, of the inexistence of time, and well, this is not scientific, but you can psychologically understand it, is most people actually live in the past. Okay, they have traumas in their life, they have certain events, all sorts of aspects that they didn't make peace with, they didn't solve, right? So still living in this past aspect of their life, right? As they are still living in that, basically that past becomes their present, right? Because the past becomes your present, and well, if you don't make peace with it, it will also become your future. That's what also karma can mean, when your past becomes your future, because you simply don't want to give it up, you simply don't want to make peace with it, so it will also become your future. You'll still be thinking of those same things. If you're thinking them now, you're still gonna think of them, like later on into the future, right? It's not hard to understand. Now the point about this is, there's also another psychological part. Okay, so the point is, how like if you live in the past, okay, you can't live in the past. Okay, it's theoretically speaking, you live in the past because you are attached emotionally and or mentally to events that happened in the past, but your experience can only exist now in the present. So how can the past be in the present? Well, it's very simple. Psychology actually explained this. Every time you think of an event, you actually think of the last time you actually thought of that event. So if you thought of that event 1,000 times, well, basically each time you think of a certain thing, especially if you don't like, or especially if you do like, you're always going to add a bit to it. You're going to add a bit of meaning, and as I've been saying in previous videos, meaning can be or is pretty much a self-destruction button. Okay, now the point about this is that this self-destruction button is nothing else than how to simply become as far away from your authenticity as possible, because the moment you give meaning, you have to create certain identities. And as I've been saying again in previous videos, indirectly and directly, when you create meanings and when you create certain ideas like that into your mind, when you create an identity, technically you're creating some kind of god or goddess within you. And when you create that, you have to support with certain ideas and stories, and those stories are just like preachers that support that god. The problem is those preachers will become subconscious loops that will keep doing that for you even when you don't think at that idea. So technically you're creating little churches that praise these these events. So technically someone said something bad, or someone had to leave, and you had the impression that you were betrayed. You're technically creating a god within you that, let's say call it a god or goddess of betrayal, and you're gonna fuel its existence with all sorts of stories that that person is bad, that person left you, they didn't have the right to, and so many sociopathic and or narcissistic triggers, and things like that. Again, these narcissistic and or sociopathic triggers are most likely, and in many situations, are just traits, not necessarily fully fledged aspects. Okay, so especially when people create trauma, okay, it's always gonna be at least a bit amplified. Okay, so the point about that is the way you will cure the past is you actually cure your relationship with yourself. Okay, you don't want to live in a relationship with yourself, you want to live in a relationship with yourself. So the point is, you just simply have to pass a law within you that all those churches are simply dispelled. Okay, and well, those deities, most likely you have turned them into almost conscious thoughts, if not even conscious. And the reason why you will always be somewhat forced to think about those ideas again and again and again is that you fed that thing enough that most likely it became conscious, and now it wants to survive. And the only way it can survive, especially that you created it at a lower vibration of trauma and therefore lack, it will most likely vibrate at a parasitic level of survival. So it will simply want to exist, and the only way it can exist, because everything dissipates, it has to feed off of something, so it most likely will feed off of you. Now these thoughts, as everyone increases in vibration, these thoughts can simply at a certain time detach from you, because they will most likely no longer be compatible with you. But the point is, you can also pick some of these, because if they detach from you, they will most likely find another host, be it an animal, I don't know, probably these thought forms can parasite one another, but if they do, they will simply dissipate because they cannot recreate their own energy. So this being said, a tip in life, do be extremely mindful of your energy, because think about this: 1/3 of your life most likely you're gonna sleep, because you have to sleep. You can sleep 3-4 hours a day depending on how much you do certain things like sun gazing, moon gazing, going out, eating the sun, eating healthily, and certain things. I might actually drop a video on how to eat healthily. I actually have a kind of a video, it's called How to Be a Fully Fledged Gamer, and it actually tells how you can be a better gamer, both of this real life game and any other specific video game that you play. So take your time, it's quite a lengthy one, but I do drop certain nuggets in there as well. So the point about the past is technically it's nothing else than your present, that you're constantly propagating past traumas into your life, and you're constantly doing these liturgies, or whatever they're called in English, right? Those rituals in which you're giving back power to those things, you're reborning those in case they almost died, right? You're constantly feeding those thoughts, right? Those are exactly like the older pagan rituals in which they would sacrifice something, because when you think about the past, it's like you sacrifice something. Okay, you sacrifice a little part of yourself, and technically what you sacrifice is time, which you could have used somewhat differently. So if you cure those aspects and realize that, hey, I've just been inventing stories, that person actually had to go, or that situation actually had to happen. I'm grateful for the lessons that happened, you know, embrace a bit more and more of this idea of you know, living in a great link with yourself, living in peace with yourself, becoming more grateful for things, right? Gratitude is kind of the best healer of all things. So hopefully you like the type of content that I'm creating. This is just another type of, you know, how to spoil people's curiosity. All this being said, hopefully you like the type of content I'm creating. Feel free to like and subscribe. Feel free to you know, provide valuable feedback. Feel free to tell me whatever you think, ask me questions, and when I feel ready I may actually drop a video on that, and most likely I will, because I don't mind being how to call it, oh yes, audience driven, because if people can ask me certain things and if there are a lot of questions, I simply don't mind it. I may actually pick several questions, because I love, you know, presenting several topics in one video, not just the main topic, because, you know, you have to present a more thorough approach rather than, you know, just having a linear approach that people will most likely take for granted. And this is kind of becoming a little disease nowadays, because whatever you don't know is something that you simply don't know. You can only believe that, and belief means accepting something without the necessity for proof. So unless you have experienced something, right, you simply don't know it. You just believe you know it. Okay, so that is why the wisest people will always tell you, don't ever rush in taking whatever does not belong to you as an experience as, you know, something real. So all this being said, take care of yourself. You are loved and appreciated. Become more introspective, and you'll see that some of, if not all of the truths you've been looking for are right there inside of you. Just remember one thing: the truth can never be taught. So if you hear about you know, truth speakers, they will be speaking most likely their own truths, but if that does not belong to you as experience, it's not worth following, because most likely it will not prove useful to you. It may help for a certain part, but you have to understand you have your own journey. Okay, all this being said, you are loved and appreciated. Take care of yourself, of your loved ones. Ferenc Bor signing out.